Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Osandra, but you can call me Wordy Girl, and you're tuned in to the Just Do Stuff podcast. On this episode, I talk about traveling and some writing projects I've been working on. Then, I answer a few questions from you before being joined by Amy Winters-Voss for a chat about her trip to Japan and her novel series, The Liminal Chronicles, followed by a funny fill-in game with stories from both our worlds. So, what are we waiting for? It's time to just do stuff. Hey there, it's me, Osandra, also known as Wordy Girl, and we're back for the third episode of the Just Do Stuff podcast. I've been editing these episodes, and they've happened. They've been already in the works for so long. It is very annoying to me, just personally, because I feel like I wanted to have debuted them earlier, but I think that timing is not something that I can control all the time. So I am thankful that these episodes are coming out when they are. There must be a good reason that they are able to drop at this time. So this episode was pretty cool. I chatted a bit with Amy Winters-Voss, who is the author of The Liminal Chronicles. And we talked about traveling, and also we played a very fun game. But yeah, before you can hear that interview, I'm going to talk a little bit about traveling myself. Well, personally, it's funny. I am about to be, 27 next week? And I have not really traveled anywhere by myself. Except for last year, for the WorldAnvil summer camp meetup, I finally decided to try to go to New York on my own. All of my previous traveling adventures, if you could call them that, or with family, road trips in the car with 3 siblings and 2 parents. But yeah, this was my first time traveling on my own, and I really did enjoy meeting up with the WorldAnvilites that I met there in New York. But there are some things about my trip that I want to do better. So, if I do another WorldAnvil meetup or just travel anywhere in general, I am glad and grateful for the trip because I did learn a lot. First of all, I decided to take the Greyhound bus since I am not the most enthusiastic about flying on a plane. Fun fact, I've never done that. I think I may have when I was a little baby. I have no idea, but I have not flown on a plane that I know of as an adult, as a child, old enough to remember anything. And yeah, there's something about flying on a plane. I just feel a little bit weird for some reason. It's not to say that I will never fly on a plane, but I just didn't want to for this trip. I know it would have taken a much shorter amount of time to get from Michigan to New York on a plane. And it would have been smoother, of course, I'm sure, probably. I don't know, but I really don't know about that part because there's all kinds of stories I hear about delayed planes and luggage arriving in the wrong place and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know about that at all. I'm not going to say that that was going to be guaranteed because it's not. Nothing's guaranteed. But I just feel that the bus wasn't the best experience. So we can talk a little bit about what happened and why I want to do things slightly differently next time. So now the bus stations weren't the best. The first bus I got on was okay, but I intentionally paid for a ticket that was supposed to take me a straight shot there and back, and it claimed there would be no transfers. Now I know from going from Michigan to New York, it makes sense to transfer. It makes sense because these are bus drivers. A lot of these bus drivers live in the cities where they drive. So the guy who was driving the bus out of Michigan probably lived either in Michigan or Ohio, and he would go back and forth between Michigan and Ohio to drop off passengers, and when he's done with his shift, he can go home. But this is the problem. I would totally understand that. I would totally understand that if they would be honest and just tell me that I should expect to keep transferring. But the problem here was that they allowed me to pay for a ticket, a special ticket that cost more than the other tickets, and it claimed that I was going to be on a straight shot bus. And I thought, this sounds like it's great because I didn't want to have to transfer. I want to be able to get on a bus, stay on the bus, go all the way to New York. Maybe we might get off at a stop, use a bathroom or whatever. But, it's supposed to be a straight shot. So that's what I was bargaining on. Unfortunately, that did not happen. He was repeatedly telling everyone that despite what their ticket said, we're going to get off at Cleveland. And I was just disappointed because I had my heart set on doing this a certain way, and I figured out at that moment that it was not going to go the way I wanted it to. We ended up switching out several buses, and as I said, some of the bus stations were really not the best. Also, some of them didn't even have toilet paper in the bathrooms, and I was glad that I brought my own toilet paper. I actually ended up sharing that with some people. So, fun fact, quick tip, when you're traveling, do bring a roll of toilet paper. Just to be safe. You can never be too safe with toilet paper. So it was overall an okay trip looking back on it. But I did bring my folding bike. Problem, the folding bike had flat tire. So when I got off of the bus finally at New York, I walked it to my hotel, and the hotel was okay. Wasn't the best, but it was okay. I fixed the chain on the bike, and I said, you know what? Something's wrong with this bike. Thankfully, in New York is very famous for bikes. So I was so blessed that there was a bike shop right next to my hotel, literally like yards away, like around the block. So I walked my bike over there, and the gentleman put air in the tire for free, and I was so thankful. I still gave him a tip. I was just like, you know what? Out of all the things that are going wrong in this trip, I'm still very thankful for the things that are going right, and I'm thankful for all of the experience, because this experience is something that I had never experienced before, and it is teaching me a lesson. So I biked out to Central Park, where WorldAnvil and the crew were meeting, and we had fun. Problem also, I packed too much, and I brought my big backpack with my computer in it and several things that I didn't even use, and I was biking down the street with this. Mind you, this is summer camp meetup, so it was very warm as well. I was a little bit hot trying to bike. The streets of New York were also very, very busy. There were so many bikes and cars everywhere. So yeah, I learned that maybe I shouldn't have taken my backpack there to the park because I didn't even use it. Didn't use it at all. The only thing I used in there, I believe, were the dice that I brought, and I could have literally just put those on my belt or something. So yeah, it was very fun in the park. We had a nice time. We played a cool game. I was a little late, but it was okay. I got to meet Janet and Demetrius in person, which was very epic. We took selfies. Also, I met other cool Anvilites as well, and we got to talk about our projects and talk about our worlds, and there was even people there that knew of me and my world, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. People who have watched my live streams, it was very just fun, and I was just honored to meet all the cool beans in person. So, that trip, there was a lot of good to it, and there was a lot to learn from it. And yeah, that's my traveling experience. Now, I believe that Amy had a very different traveling experience that you will love to hear in a moment. But first, before we get into that, I will talk a little bit about the writing projects I've been working on. Amy has a novel series that I've said before, the Liminal Chronicles. It is a Japanese fantasy series. The current project I've been working on is Secret Agent Someone, and it is like a mild sci-fi, action-adventure, romance, thriller, drama, almost every kind of genre you can fit into anything. I can almost guarantee that you'll find something somewhere in the world of Secret Agent Someone in that genre. So I am planning on novels. I'm planning on so much, but I have also been having fun making audio dramas and the audio books. My very, very, very talented voice actor John McNally, who plays someone himself, does such a wonderful job with this all the time, and I do so appreciate him very much. And speaking of that, I have been planning to release The Troubled Beginnings Chapter 3. It's the final part of the origin story of Secret Agent Someone. This tells his life before he was drafted into Will-O-Wisp and some of his early life at Will-O-Wisp. That's mainly what the third chapter covers. The plan was for it to come out during the birthday shenanigans that we hosted the last month. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So much stuff happened, and like I said, I got laid off, which made a lot of financial decisions hard. But thankfully, I'm just so grateful that John McNally, who plays someone, actually decided to voice a special birthday drama for free. So I will link that one in the chat so that you guys can hear it. And the fun thing is, while I was working out the timeline on WorldAnvil, which I will also link in the chat because I've been talking about WorldAnvil a lot, they have their new timelines. They've totally revamped their timeline feature, and it is just so awesome to work with. And I have been trying to get around to making a timeline for all of the stories that I make in the world of Secret Agent Someone, because a lot of people are like, I love Secret Agent Someone's, but I just don't know where to start. There's so many things you have out. And like I said, I am all about just doing stuff. So I wanted to wait until I got full novels out, but since I couldn't, I said, you know what, let's do short stories. The problem with short stories, people don't know where the short story falls in the timeline. People don't know what happened before this, what happened after that, what is this about, who is this involving, who is that person? So the WorldAnvil timelines did such a great job in allowing me to organize each story as an event. I can add the characters that it's related to. I can add any articles that supplement the story, and I categorized all these things in an event form. And that was just amazing. I love to be able to see it all laid out, and it's so beautifully aesthetic as well how WorldAnvil put the tool together. So, as a writer, I know kind of when things happen in proximity to other things, and I do know completely fixed events such as someone's birthday, which he doesn't share with anybody, but I share it because I'm the author. He was born on Leap Day of 1996, and that is something that cannot be moved. And due to that, I was able to work out that the last audio drama that we recorded and put together and showed the public that John did for free, that was to commemorate someone's birthday, literally happened on February 29th, 2024. And I was able to play it on my Twitch stream live on the day. And that was just amazing because as the author, I was even surprised when I figured out that it fell that way. And another beautiful part about that was the fact that it was even John's idea to make such a scene for the birthday. And I already had, a lot of story. I asked people, what would you like to see for someone's birthday? Because I wanted the fans to be able to choose fun things that they can see, hear, read, and experience for the birthday shenanigans, which I ran every single day in February. Even though I did get sick for like a week, I did make up for those days. And John is the one who said that he wanted to see Constance giving someone something. So I said, technically at this point, Constance does not know someone's birthday for sure, so she wouldn't give him a birthday gift directly. But there was something that I spoke about a lot that Constance has, and I figured that this would be the time to debut that. So, without spoilers, I will tell you that she will give him something, and it's quite a surprise what she gives him. So, if you would like to figure that out, feel free to check the show notes for the short audio drama called February 29th. Now it's time for questions. I receive a question a lot from people that ask, what kind of genres do you write? And like I mentioned earlier, I write almost every single genre, but not just in the world of Secret Agent Someone. There are so many stories that I have, so many places, and so much in my brain that I feel like I can never get it out in time. But that's why I decided to start publishing short stories, because I may never fully write a novel in every single one of these universes, but I can at least show people a little tidbit of something that goes on in those universes by sharing the short stories. So I have fantasy and medieval stories like The World of Winsome Horde. I have urban fantasy stories like The Infinite Imagination of Isabella Ives, which I always claim to have an infinite imagination myself, and I have so many stories in it. I even have sci-fi stories about people going in outer space. I have stories about dinosaurs. I have twisted fairy tales that put a spin on the classics you grew up on. If you name any genre, I am almost for certain I've written something in it, and I will link you my prose.com page where you can see my name is Lexi Khan there, and you can see a lot of the short stories that I wrote. And once again, if you have a question for me, please do go to justdostuffpod.com and go ahead and click the podcast button and fill out the podcast interaction form. There you can ask me questions, you can answer questions that I pose on the podcast, and you can give me feedback. Whatever you'd like to do, feel free to put it in the form. So, without further ado, we should jump into the interview with Amy Winters-Voss, the amazing, spectacularly special author, and hear this fun trip that she went on, talk about her own writing projects, and play a very funny fill-in game that involves a story set in the Liminal Chronicles world and a story set in the world of Secret Agent Someone. So, here we go. Okay, this should be good. All right, we are now recording. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Could you introduce yourself?
Hello, and thank you for having me here. I am Amy Winters-Voss, and I'm excited to be here on the show with you.
I'm so honored that you agreed to be on the show. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
I am the author of the urban fantasy series, the Liminal Chronicles. It's a urban fantasy set in a mythical, not quite real Japan. There's all sorts of creatures that aren't that we wouldn't think of being as real. The yokai, the mythical creatures. So I really enjoyed writing the two books that are in the series, and I'm writing on my third. I have done a ton of different things in my life. Writing was not how I started out. So I was a programmer on a NASA project called Landsat 7. I've taught kids robotics. I've done all sorts of things because I'm a little bit older, and I've just really enjoyed each aspect of my life. So
That's amazing. And yeah, the podcast is called Just Do Stuff. So it sounds like you just did a lot of stuff. And I'm glad
indeed.
you enjoyed the things that you did. And I am a person who I like to, take the lessons from everything that I do. Everywhere I go, there's something to be learned, there's something to be gained, and I just like to treasure those experiences. So it sounds like you do the same.
I try to, and it always shows in you how much you enjoy things and how well you deal with everything in your life. So
Yeah. All right. So yeah, the urban fantasy Japan book. Those. How many have you written so far?
two.
Two.
There's Rise and Guardian, and I'm working on Legend.
Nice. Those are very interesting. I've read some of the short stories in the universe. I've read your WorldAnvil, a lot of your interesting lore and stuff. You do a great job in presenting your author site and all the different lore. It makes me really curious about the world, and I just really need to find the time to read the full books because they sound amazing.
Well, thank you. I am part of the World Anvil Inner Sanctum, and I have definitely taken advantage of their teaching opportunities on how to present things, and I've been really, really grateful for that. So,
Yeah, you do an awesome job with it. So what is what kind of writing do you do? I know that's like your main project, but do you do any other kinds of writing projects?
um, mostly, sorry for inside the Liminal Chronicles universe. Um, I I do a little bit of like blogging, guest articles and stuff, and on my Substack for a newsletter for my readers, but mostly just for my books. I used to do fan fiction, but I will not tell people where my account is because like that stuff is like way old and not reflective of my writing today. So,
Well, a lot of I've heard a lot of writers get started with fan fiction, and sometimes it is easier to take characters that already exist and kind of write in a world that already exists. But once you start creating your own characters in your own world, then you can get the flavor of what you want to add, and like you can take inspiration from other things, but ultimately this is yours. So
exactly.
how do you come up with the characters and the worlds and yeah, it's
Um, this Liminal Chronicles in particular was a very specific set of inspirations. So this is kind of meld with some of the other things we'll talk about later. But okay, from the beginning here, the beginning of me wanting to start writing was After my first trip to Japan in 2017, I fell in love with Japan. I already liked Japan. I had already had a good friend. We had been doing like a language and just chat exchange, cultural exchange for years before I went, and I got to meet her in person. But I really, truly fell in love with the country after the first time I visited it. No country is perfect. I've seen, the goods and the good side and the bad side of Japan too, but I overall, I just love Japan. And, a year later, I was like, "Man, I wanna go back, and I can't afford to go back. What can I do?" And I was like, "I could write a story." And then I had also come across an interview. It was a very interesting interview to me because everybody likes a little bit different things, but I've always been kind of interested in like mob stories. I don't watch a lot of mob stuff, but there's a bit of intrigue there.
Yeah.
And I watched an interview with a gentleman named Nakamoto Takashi, and he used to be higher up in the most notorious group in Japan. Usually Yakuza will like leave normal people alone, especially the women and the children, but the Kudokai, that's what they were called, did not. I mean, seriously, they were like the most notorious group. And Nakamoto-san had been like second in command or very, very close to that. And he left. And I got to watch an interview of him and the difficulties that he and some of his friends who had left faced. Like somebody who leaves the Yakuza cannot have bank account, cell phone. They can't rent places because these all things could have been used for the Yakuza. They can't do that for 5 years
Wow.
after they leave. So it's very, very difficult. And then it's also hard for them to find jobs. And so this was his story about him starting over. And he described it as starting from minus, not just from zero, but from below that. And I was absolutely intrigued. And he became the inspiration for my character Umeji Tatsuya in the Liminal Chronicles. It's the story of him starting over and trying to prove to the world around him that he won't go back. And of course, because I love Japan and its mythology and just as much of the culture as I could cram into a book, I had to make it about him not just starting over, but incorporate the yokai, the fantastical creatures of the Japanese mythology. And the first one he meets is a fox, a kitsune, and so it goes from there. And the tenuous friendship he makes with this kitsune, and he finds out who she is, and everything gets weird. It's the last person he thought it would be. It's this little old lady, and you find this out really, really early. So I'll tell you what's happening here. It's the little old lady that's trying to get him kicked out of town because she doesn't want him in her town. She's the dowager of the town, and really doesn't want him in there. But they end up with a tentative friendship because he rescues her, and she offers to teach him a way to have a respectable life and to have a purpose beyond just being out of the Yakuza. And so that's Nakamoto-san really was the inspiration behind that. And it was the beginning of a lot of research for me, and it was a very interesting research for me. So there you go.
That's beautiful. It's amazing when you know, I don't know what it is about creatives, about writers, when we just see something just sparks to like, hey, I want to create something like this. And that's what it sounds like happened here. And sometimes I get the same thing. Like I could be just watching anything and it could just be the most random thing. And I'm just like, you know what? I can make a character like this. And it's just fun to see what that spirals into, and like you said, the researching of it. I'm sure you do a lot of research because I know that you are very thorough. Like, and you let us know what is fiction and what is not. You let us know this is loosely based on this myth. This is based on, so I appreciate the dedication you put into the work as well.
Thank you. I realized very quickly that I couldn't just exactly stick to Japanese mythology exactly because there's just too much to explain. And so I've had to truncate things. I've had to explain things like why most of the stories have female kitsunes that are these beautiful, gorgeous females that men practically drop in front of them and say, "Please, I love you already," Um, and yet there's a trickster side to them too, and I had to explain why maybe that was. There are a few legends with that I've seen with males, but very few, and most of them are female. So I'd like had to come up with reasons for such things, and it's been a lot of fun. Um, I remember the beginning of my book when I first started writing it. I remember the date. It was December 1st, 2018. I was getting on the plane to go take a test I was very nervous about. It was a Japanese language. Has not. I'm nowhere near fluent. Okay, but this was just. Do I know the basics? Okay, and I was so nervous, and so I started writing on the plane, and it was such a relief and such a wonderful distraction that I kept going with it. So I wasn't sure I was going to finish it, but I kept going with it and really enjoyed the process.
That's wonderful. Did you happen to pass the test?
Yes, actually I
Ah,
did. I did
yes.
very good, even though I was not. Oh man, I was so nervous. I forgot to fill in the bubbles for the number of my thing on the test, and they had to go fill it in for me. So yes, yeah.
I'm glad you did pass. And yeah, I feel like this even though you said sometimes it strays off the lore, I feel like the story is good at teaching or introducing at least some Japanese lore to people. Is it did researching it and writing it help you to retain some of the information?
Oh yeah, even though I can't retain everything, that this is why I have the WorldAnvil set up so I can go look up stuff. It's my world Bible.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a wonderful excuse to learn more about the culture, to have more topics to talk about with my friend in Japan that we talk pretty much every week. And I can ask her, okay, what about things like adoption? Because that's a topic that's going to come up. And she's like, oh, and it's the Western ideal of like adoption and godparents is very, very different. They don't have that over there. So it's been a really good excuse to learn more about the culture, learn how the people kind of tick, and see what's different and what's the same.
Yeah. I really like different languages and different cultures and just exploring how, different people do different things and for different reasons. So, yeah, I feel like this project is really a fun exploration, and it's awesome that you actually got to go to Japan and see some of this stuff in person.
I've got to go twice now, and I want to
Yes.
go back again.
Yes.
So, last year, my husband and I went kind of belatedly celebrate our 30th anniversary, and
Congratulations.
it was thank you. It was amazing to get to show him Japan, and I was really glad he's there because he's a much better person with kind of navigating places.
Yeah.
I get lost. So I was not just glad to have him there as my partner in life, but also I would have been so lost without him.
Yes, literally.
So, well, just trying to get out to some of the big stations. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, yes. We had some really special things happen, some of them planned, some of them not so planned. And yeah. So back last February, almost a year ago,
almost.
we landed in Tokyo and took the Shinkansen, the bullet train down from Tokyo to Fukuoka. It was a 6-hour train ride, really fast, about over 200 miles an hour.
Whoa.
Um, it was really amazing, and it doesn't look like you're going that fast, but when you go through the tunnels, your ears pop, so you're like, okay, yes, we're going fast. Um, but it was a really America doesn't have maglev trains that I know of. It's so smooth and so quiet. It's not the clickety clack of normal trains. It's just really cool. So we end up in Kyushu, uh, and spend the night there. Then we go to the first big thing that I really, really, really wanted to do. That was go up to Kyushu to meet Nakamoto-san. My friend had helped me look up where he was. I found the address of his shop, his udon shop. Udon is like a thick wheat noodle, and he makes the most amazing udon noodle soup with meat in it. It's, oh my gosh, to die for. And I had heard nothing but good reviews from about his shop, but also the fact that he would talk to people. So I asked if I could bring him a copy of my book that he had inspired the character for, and my friend arranged this because I don't speak enough Japanese to call him on the phone, and 15-hour difference. It was difficult, so she did it for me, and she was surprised because she knew who he had been, and she's like, he's so nice. It was really cool. So we end up finding our way to Kitakyushu from Fukuoka and finding the shop. It's a little bit tricky to find, but we did find it, and he was there waiting for us. His shop had been closed for renovations, but he let us in and he fed us. And
Oh.
he was so kind and so not what he used to be, more than I think it's more than like 7 or 8 years ago now, when he left. And he's just he from what I understand of it, he knew he had to take the determination he had in the Yakuza and put that into becoming a normal person, what they call a katagi, a not Yakuza person. Um, and like he would sweep outside where he wanted to rent a shop every single day. He took part in helping with things. He would be tried to become part of the community before they even let him in. And he proved himself that way, and he has done everything he can to help the community. When I got to meet him, I didn't know he was setting up a fundraiser. Um, so this I got to meet him. It was really cool. The only things that he talks about from the Yakuza are the fact that he left, and he'll show the NHK documentary of after he left, and he doesn't show off his tattoos. He's very humble. So I had no idea he was planning this like fundraiser to start a feeding the kids in his town ministry, for lack of a better word, um, and trying to help provide a way to hire former yakuza so that they can have a way to start over and make it easier than it was for him. So getting to meet him was really incredible. He also gave me a copy of his book, which I can show you, but obviously you can't show it online. But he gave me a copy of his book, which I could not find in any of the stores I was in Japan. I was looking, and so he gave me a copy of it.
Wow.
Precious book. I don't read Japanese, but I've been slowly using Google Translate, as awful as it is, Google Translate, but trying to get the gist of his story, and it's an incredible story. So, but anyway, so we got to exchange the books, and I got to my friend who lives in Japan had helped me translate a message for him. I wrote up a gist of it, and she's like, "Okay, here's some corrections." And I got to tell him about how he was the inspiration for my character Umeji Tatsuya, and him starting over, and that is his focus. I don't focus on Umeji's past a lot. I focus on his transformation, and so he got to see that, and it was just very emotional for both of us. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's so
So that
beautiful.
was it seriously, that was the highlight of my whole trip. Besides getting to meet my good friend at the end of the trip in her hometown. So, but that was one of the things I really, really wanted to do, and the main reason why I wanted to go to Kyushu. But I also wanted to go to another island, because there's multiple islands to Japan. So that was my first time off the main island. But after that, then we got to do we went all over Japan. We went from Tokyo to Fukuoka and little stops back up to Tokyo. Um, so uh, one of the other things that we got to do, and I'm not going to go through everything. It was just we had 18 days there. It was
Wow,
maybe
18 days?
maybe it was a little bit shorter than that. But my first trip was 18 days. I think it was 14 or 15 days the second trip.
Well, that's still longer
I
than.
wanted I want longer time. I want to be like I want to be there as long as I can next.
Yes.
But one of the coolest surprises that we came across. So um, late February to early March is plum blossom season, and it's also the season of the Doll Festival Girls' Day. And so there were a lot of plum trees. It's not quite as the idyllic picture as the sakura, the cherry blossoms, but the plum blossoms were still very pretty, and we got to go to a shrine. There's shrines are uh, there's the Buddhist temples and the Shinto shrines. So we went to a shrine that had a big plum blossom garden and just tons of different kinds of plum blossoms. So we were taking pictures, and then my husband pointed out, he's like, "There's a sword on that, and it says Demon Slayer sword," and I'm like, "What?" And so we go up to and we read the translation in the sign, and lo and behold, it is the legendary sword that Watanabe no Tsuna used to cut off the arm of the Oni, the left roughly translated demon or ogre. Okay, the arm of the Oni Ibaraki Doji, and I had been writing about Ibaraki Doji in my book too. And I'm like, history right here.
Wow.
But I mean, and so it was really, really cool. We got to go in and see it. It was totally worth the 1,000 yen. And at that time, it was less than $10. Okay, for each to go in and see all this and other historical swords, and we could take pictures of it, which in a lot of places you can't. But if you didn't use any flash, you could take pictures, and it was beautiful, beautiful sword. And they just have they don't have it doesn't have the hilt on it. It's just the forged blade and the ring around it where the hilt would attach to. Um, and it's just this absolutely gorgeous sword in perfect condition. So I'm like, did they really use it to cut anything? It's in such good condition. I'm like, I don't know if it was used, but and a lot of the swords on display are the beautiful artistic works that were never really used. But maybe they did use it. I don't know. But supposedly this is the sword that cut off Ibaraki Doji's arm, and we got to see it. I mean, this sword, it is old, like hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Wow.
Um, so it was just really, really cool. And was just sitting there, and I'm sure there's security for it, but everybody was just so respectful and taking turns. And it, it was just the coolest thing we came across on accident the entire trip.
Wow.
So yes.
So
And
it
getting
was
to see the
just
plum was,
it,
was, amazing, was amazing too. So.
yeah. The sword was just sitting out like it wasn't in a case or anything?
It is in a glass case
Oh,
on a stand to show it to the best they can show
of
it
course.
with special lighting and everything, and so you can see the wave pattern on the. At the time, it was not. It would have been a tachi. It had multiple holes in it. Okay, back up here a little bit. We got to go see a sword museum before we got to see this in Kyoto, so I knew a little bit more about swords then. And if you ever get to go see the sword museum in Bizen in Japan, do it. Um, Amazing. But so one of the things that I learned about swords there was the fact that there's only one pin required to hold the handle onto the sword. Um, and so if there's multiple holes, it means that the sword was shortened. And
Oh.
so this sword was shortened just a little bit, but a lot of it just depends on who needed the sword. The swords changed. So the sword displayed here in the case for the Onikiri, the Demon Slayer sword, is a tachi. It's longer, but it was shortened for some reason. We don't know if it was the owner just thought it was too long for his personal use, or if as war in Japan changed from horseback to on foot, the sword shortened. So we don't know if that was also part of the reason. So anyway, it was just really really cool to see. So
Yes, it sounds very interesting. Like, and that's another fun thing I know about world building is like you see that, hey, these are holes in a sword, but you know the reason. So now you're like, well, why was it? And that's a good theory because if you're on a horse and you have it on your back, then it can hang down longer than maybe if you were like walking with it or something.
well,
So that could be a reason too.
and they needed a longer reach.
Of course, because they're on the horse
So
and not in
yeah.
close combat. Yeah, so that's a lot of, and that's how we can easily get dragged down research rabbit holes trying to figure stuff out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Seriously, when I will talk a little bit about Bizen just because it was so super cool. Um, we arrived in Bizen and I had asked for an interpreter, and I expected half an hour to an hour tour. We were there for 3 hours, totally absorbing it, and we went right through lunch, and I was absolutely starving by the end. But like I was absolutely wrapped and taking pictures of everything that Tumi, our guide, was talking about, and yeah, we were all geeking out about swords. It was really fun. I got to see so many historic swords and learn about what makes a national treasure sword, which helped me avoid a mistake in one of my books because I was going to call the sword that Umeji eventually carries. I thought it was going to be a national treasure sword, but no, it does not qualify. There's way too many restrictions and requirements for that. So it was just a whole lot of fun. And like I said, we learned so much about swords and the swordsmithing process. We didn't get to see swordsmithing specifically done, but we got to see like a guy making a scabbard, and we got to it just and the artisans can just go and work there. And in order, it's they get it rent free, if I understand it right. Their workspace is at Bizan, but they have to take time to talk to the dorky tourists like me who want to know everything. So, and he was the scabbard maker was working on a very, 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 very old sword and making a new scabbard for it. And it was just really interesting because he would make these tiny little addition changes in the groove for the two pieces that would be the scabbard, and I didn't know how much of a difference it would make, but he would slide the sword in, he'd take the sword out, and oh no, okay, we got to tweak this, and it was really cool to watch him. So
That's amazing. It sounds like you had a very awesome time and you learned a lot and you got to meet uh, your inspiration for your book and you got to, I mean, even the mistake correction is fun too. Like I like when I figure out something before I actually put in the book because then once I like learn something that I say, oh no, and I go back to the book too late. I mean, of
and
course
there's
you can
only so
change it, but
much
of
that
course,
Google can teach you. I mean,
of
like
course,
one of the places in my book we got to go see was Mount Karama, and Mount Karama is where Sojobo, who we got to read about,
yes,
uh, supposedly lives. And I got to see it, and I would have made mistakes had I not seen it. Because even Google Maps, when you have the Google Street View, it's not enough
it's not.
sometimes. So it really was worth getting to go. And it was cool getting to go see places that were not quite as popular. So like there were very few of us on Mount Karama compared to like the Plum Blossom Festival, or in Gion, which is like the historic district of Kyoto. So it was neat getting to see some of the bigger things and a lot of the smaller things too.
Yeah, and I'm sure like when there's less people, then it's more like you feel like you're in the book and not just like in a busy tourist place with a lot of people that are also here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. When I first went to see Fushimi Inari at the biggest shrine to Inari, who is like uses the foxes as his messengers. He's the god of rice and a lot of other things. Um, we went early, and this was on my first trip to Japan. Two of my friends and I went, and we went early, and it was still shoulder to shoulder going up, but everybody kind of trailed off. We were some of the few that actually made the top. And yes, the out of shape old lady made it to the top. My friends were worried about me, but I'm like, I'm going to do this.
That's so cool. And learning that Nakamoto-san's shop was closed. I mean, but he fed you guys anyway, and that I'm sure that was more of an intimate experience. So you were able to like talk to him one on one without any busy customers and stuff there.
Yeah, I didn't get to talk to him as much. Again, my
Of course,
Japanese
because
is,
he. Oh
even though
yeah.
I've tried to study it for years, I just struggle with it. I love it. An amazing doorway to the culture, but I struggle trying to speak it. You have to speak it a lot to get comfortable with the changes in where everything is in the sentence. But he invited a friend of his who would kind of interpret between, so we could talk a little bit that way. But he also just was there to help kind of entertain us, and he was really really cool too. But yeah, it was, and Nakamoto-san was in the kitchen a lot, trying to make sure that everything was ready for us.
Wow. Yeah, that's nice. But still, it's very impressive the words that you do know in Japanese and that you know how to pronounce. Because I
I
love
try.
languages and I love all that kind of stuff, but I don't have the time to actually study all of them. But I know like it's better to like focus on one. I know un poquito español, but I do not know very much else, and I can only say a few sentences, like in Spanish, a little bit. But yeah, languages like Japanese are very like they're more complex. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
because they have like syllables and the way, like you said, the placement of the words in the sentence is a lot to memorize.
And there's so much context to their language. It's part of the reason I struggle with it because it is a high context language. There's the difference in the word orders. There's three different. They don't have like alphabets,
Of
but
course.
there's katakana, hiragana, and then the kanji, which is the symbols we're used to seeing in Chinese and Japanese. Um, and then there's just like when I say the name Umeji Tatsuya, um, people usually want to say Umeji Tatsuya. And it's trying to figure that out. And there's just so many things. And I know I'm not getting everything 100%, but I do my best because I want to respect the culture and the language and let them know that I care by trying my best.
Yeah, and you do a good job, at least in my eyes, uh, of doing that. And yeah, I just appreciate you like trying your best to do the research and stuff like that as well, because I know ultimately it's fiction, but I see that you are really dedicated on trying to get as much right as possible and trying to be as respectful as possible of the work.
That's The respect for me is absolutely huge especially because one, it's not my culture.
Of course.
I'm a white woman talking about a minority culture, and it's very important to me to respect the culture. But beyond that, Japan is very much a respect-based culture. So I also
Yes.
want to not just portray that, but show my respect for culture that values that. So,
Yeah. All right.
all right. So I have a fill in the blank game I had made a little while back, but it's as an excerpt. There we go. I can talk today. An excerpt from my second book, but it doesn't give away too much, so that this is partly why I picked it. And so it's a lot like Mad Libs, but I couldn't call it Mad Libs.
Of course.
I'll ask you for words, and then you can ask me for words. How's that?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll go through mine. First one I need is a noun.
Noun. Okay. Paint. I don't know. I'm just looking at stuff in my
Adjective.
room.
That's okay. The sillier the better, remember.
Okay.
Adjective.
Um, sweetly. I don't know.
Here, I should have probably put feeling because it was a feeling.
Ah, okay. Um, like angrily or something? Like that? Or,
How about angry?
okay, angry.
Verb,
Run.
a noun.
Camera.
Sound word.
Boing. I don't know. It's that.
That works.
Okay.
An animal.
A cow.
Uh, a verb ending in ing.
Listening.
Uh, body part.
Nose.
I need something different because that's the actual verb.
Oh no! Okay. Elbow.
Elbow. An adverb ending in ly.
Snobbly.
Say a noun. About halfway.
Stick.
Motion verb.
Um, like jumped? Jump? Or is it something
Yeah,
like
I'll put
okay,
jumping because it'll fit
jumping?
her.
Okay. Ah,
Okay. Another noun.
water.
Uh, another movement verb ending in s.
Blinks.
Okay, a noun.
Gum.
Verb.
Chew.
Noun.
A plate.
Plate. Okay. Creature.
An ant? Or is it like a mythical creature, like a unicorn?
It,
Or
it, it works. Yeah, it
oh,
works.
okay.
Clothing item.
Jacket.
Another clothing item.
Sock.
Ah, close here. Last one is body part.
Thumb.
Okay. My glasses here so I can read. All right. So this is from the first chapter, but obviously we have tweaked it a little bit.
A little
So
bit.
my aunt beelines straight to him, bowing, and then exclaiming, "Paint, son! It's been a while." Despite her sweetly greeting, he's sweetly greeting, he's curt. It has. But Sojo-sama is waiting. He will not be angry. Stiffly, Kairi leads us through the inner gate, grudgingly allowing us to run our paws at the entry. The winding camera of rooms has me so lost, and the polished wood floors announce every step with a loud boing. They're cow floors, but I'd read about in Nijo Castle. Our guide tucks his wings back and kneels to open the sliding panel before bowing to and listening to us. Great Tengu, they have arrived. A short man with gray wings at his back and humorously long elbow rises spryly from a meditative pose. He greets us with a scathing tone but respectful actions. Nakamura-san, you never were snubbly, were you? And this is my perspective stick. His red ascetics monk robe and flowing white beard jumping freely in the breeze, rippling from an open door. The view beyond hints at a picturesque water garden raked into a swirling pattern. My aunt's ears twitch, but the jab about the rudeness of not being early blinks off her. Sojo-sama, this is my gum, Meiji Tatsuya. She still breathes heavily, but gives a deeper bow than I've seen her do before. Next, the Tengu King's eyes narrow and his wings chew. Let us see you in your original shape, boy. Your magic doesn't quite match the plate form you represent. He waves his feathered fan, popping me back into ant shape. At least I had the sense to dress formally in a navy jacket. and tie that Su Chen picked out for me, though I still feel out of place. Besides my aunt and I, everyone else wears a kimono and sock. It's different from the streets of Kyoto, where you see the traditional clothing only occasionally. Then Shojibo raises a bushy thumb. Nakamura-san, why do you associate with a magic thief? And that is our snippet.
That was quite hilarious. But that makes me want to read the actual one. That sounds very like an interesting scene there. Well, we just made it very comical. All right.
I'm anxious to hear yours too. Sorry. All right. You want me to do the list now?
Sure.
To do your list?
All right. I need a name.
Bob.
Adjective.
Smelly.
A color.
Green.
I should tell you to pick a different color because that is the color.
Orange.
Okay. A chore or an errand?
Laundry.
Okay. Verb.
Skip.
Skip?
Skip. S-K-I-P.
Okay. Yes, okay. Because do you have noise canceling or something on?
Maybe. I'll double check here just a second.
You sound fine now. It was probably you were too far from the microphone or something.
Noise canceling and I don't get along all that great either, so.
All right. Another verb.
Launch.
Number.
5062.
That is a number. Adjective.
Strange.
Strange?
Strange. Yep.
Okay. A noise.
Boing.
A food.
Kielbasa.
Okay, you're gonna have to spell that one.
Why don't I pick something else? Hash browns.
Hash browns?
Hash browns, yep.
Okay. Another verb.
Speak.
Noun.
Opossum.
Body part.
Little toe.
Okay. And a vehicle.
Snowmobile.
Okay.
I love watching your expressions.
This is going to be hilarious. Another body part.
Fingernail.
Adjective.
Wary.
Wiry?
Wary.
Oh, weary.
Like unsure, yeah.
Okay. And place.
McDonald's.
All right. Almost last ones. Adjective.
Right, my brain is done. Flying.
A noun.
Fox.
Socks.
Okay. Fox.
Oh, a fox.
Animal.
Ah.
I'm also looking around my house.
Yeah. Place in nature.
Riverbank.
And one more. I mean, actually, adjective, and then there's going to be 2 more things left.
Oh, okay. Adjective. Spooky.
Okay. An adverb.
Quietly.
And then the last adjective.
Superior.
All right. These are going to be funny, I can tell. Well, mine is from my current project, which is Secret Agent Someone. And this is a scene where they are supposed to be in a car, but as you specified, is a snowmobile. um,
You
it's
love Secret Agent Someone. Looking forward to this.
it's called One Last Stop. Why are we slowing down? Bob asked, smelly from the passenger seat. Because I have to run one last little errand, smiled the young man with the orange eyes. I like to do all my laundry before I hit the road, Bob scoffed, but I guess that's just something you'll have to learn. The driver simply skipped and continued navigating up the side road. Come on, dude, you weren't serious, were you? Bob launched. For real. If you make 5,062 more stops, I swear we're going to be so totally late, and that it's not strange. Don't worry, I will, the driver laughed, evoking a boing from Bob. I'm hungry, aren't you? I guess, Bob hesitated, but I'm sure they'll have hash browns at the... In life, you can never be sure of anything, the driver spoke as he parked. But I guess that's just something you'll have to learn. I can be sure that you, my friend, are super cuckoo, Bob said with a smirk. Well, maybe that's the one thing you can be sure of, the driver winked, taking the opossum from the ignition, patting Bob on the little toe, and exiting the snowmobile. Wait here, I won't be too long. Bob only shook his fingernail and reclined his seat. The snowmobile was pretty nice, and the cabin was really weary. It had to be soundproof because all the noises of the busy McDonald's had faded into oblivion. The interior was flying. It was neat, it was clean, and it smelled like a new fox. No, it smelled better than a new fox. Something about it reminded him of the riverbank. It smelled spooky, peaceful, and calming. Before Bob knew it, the combination of boredom, relaxation, curiosity, and deep thinking had sent him off quietly and soundly into a superior sleep.
Oh, we did good on that one.
Yes. That was so funny.
I was trying to be quiet, but I couldn't.
It's hard to not laugh. Thank you. That was so fun.
Well, thank you for being willing to try it out, because I had so much fun with these earlier. It was just a lot of fun.
Yes. Well, I know you do have to go because it's right at time. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate you sharing all the wonderful stories about your trip and about your writing and about your book. Please let everybody know where they can find you, and I will try to remember to link it in the show notes.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. My books can be found at go.liminalchronicles.com/books. That's the easy way to find them. And then there's a listing of on each page, the page with wherever you want to buy the books at that we have listed. Then if people want to follow my newsletter, it's amywinters-voss.substack.com, and I will give you the hyperlink so you can just paste those in a beat. So, but thank you so much for having me here. It was a delight to get to chat with you again. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you. Well, that was lots of fun. I was so happy to speak with Amy about all of her projects and her wonderful trip, the beautiful, heartwarming meetings that she had, and even to play the very funny game. Now, I will tell you that if you would like to know the true story of what happened with the snowmobile, which was actually not a snowmobile, that was basically Bruce Machete being driven around by someone else would. And I can link that story below. It is called One Last Stop, featuring Bruce Machete and the man with the malachite eyes. Well, orange in that story. But the man with the malachite eyes, someone else would himself. Thanks so much for tuning in to this podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please do know that if you've listened to the end, I appreciate you so very much. And of course, as always, you can receive a prize if you do message me, leave a comment, leave a review, or any kind of thing like that to let me know that you finished the full episode. Because that does not ever go unappreciated. I am eternally grateful for every single supporter I have, every single listener I have, anyone who's following anything I do. I appreciate you so very much. So thank you and much love. That's all for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to find out more about me or the show, head over to thejustdostuffpodcast.com. This is your host, Osandra, also known as Wordy Girl, signing off. God bless, much success, and remember to just do stuff.